Morning and welcome to the dialogue. My name is Simapolo, and as we conclude the week, we sit down to look at those matters of national importance. Welcome to the show this Saturday morning, the 9th of July 2022. And we conclude a very busy week. A lot has happened in Uganda and across our borders. The highlight of this week is the declaration and the directive to adopt Swahili as the second official language in Uganda alongside English, and this comes after another directive from the East African Community Summit that sat a year ago and adopted Swahili, French, and English as the official languages of the community. Well, it's now up to the authorities in Uganda and everyone to implement this cabinet decision. And again, another highlight of the week is the move, and what has been happening in the last 3 weeks. It is the recall of the teachers' strike. After weeks of industrial action, government and the teachers reached a compromise to call off the strike, and now hopefully our learners, our children will be receiving lessons after all that time. But then the question remains: will the teachers really have the motivation to deliver lessons and to teach our learners? And that will be part of a discussion this morning. But when we cross our borders today, in South Sudan, it is Independence Day, and of course we congratulate the South Sudanese, and in the spirit of Pan-Africanism, we say Happy Independence Day to our brothers across the border. And in Kenya, the election fever is still heating up. The whole week has been dominated by manifesto launches and the gear up for the presidential candidates debate, and of course we look up to a peaceful election on that side. But again, across the continent, the resignation of the UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson dominated headlines, and a lot has been written around Boris Johnson, the scandals and everything. But again, if the panelists have a word or two around that resignation, we will give them time. My name is Simapolo, and we now kick off the dialogue. I introduced the guests this morning. Dr. Gerard Werihe Wanzara is the head of research and civic engagement at Africa Leadership Institute, an NGO that does oversight on parliament and matters of governance in Uganda. Dr. Gerard Werihe, welcome to the dialogue this morning.
Well, thank you very much, Apple. It's always a pleasure being here. Good morning, viewers. I'm looking forward to 2 hours of engagement.
Thank you. And it is a pleasure having you on the show. Charity Aimsiwe Kalebo is the executive director, Electoral Laws Institute. She will tell us what it really means. Welcome to the show this morning.
Thank you very much, Apollo. A very good morning to our viewers. Most excited to be back here after so many months. The Electoral Laws Institute is a Uganda chapter. It is an affiliate of Electoral Laws Institute in Kenya. We do observe elections in the Eastern Horn of Africa. So our thrust is in Ethiopia, Somalia, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and the whole of East Africa. So right now our eyes are on Kenya in view of the previous elections that were there and violence that existed there. Most certainly after Kenya, our eyes will shift to DRC Congo, because there will be an election in Congo next year. And so that's what the Institute does. We raise awareness around good practices. We look at the challenges that pre-existed to the election that is being held in that country, and we work around ensuring that the elections there this time do not espouse the challenge that existed. In Kenya, for the last election in 2017, it was violence. So we have had to work behind the scenes with the Kenyan observers to ensure that across the board Kenyans embrace peace, and you've not seen a lot of fighting, riots and exchanges, except for one incident that happened in the northern part of Kenya, but still the candidates called out their friends for peace. And when it comes back to Uganda, I hope we can still coalesce around the issues that always happen around Uganda to cause a more meaningful engagement for the citizens of this country.
Thank you so much, Charity, and the concern from Richard Baguma's OB is now sorted, I hope. Richard Baguma, it's always a pleasure having you on the dialogue.
Thank you very much. I think to be fair to the general, I think Karibu has said many things. So I just want to be sure that I have understood that it is a non-government organization.
Yes, it is.
Based in the region of Africa and looking at election issues. Have I summarized it very well?
Very good.
Oh,
I think you made it easy.
Thank you. My name is Baguma Tinka Richard. It's always a pleasure to be here. Communication is my work, so I am hoping that I am doing a little bit.
Good.
Apollo. Apollo. The week has had many things. You introduced some, there is one you left out, but we shall read it in the discussion.
Okay, thank you so much. But you can now proceed and have your 5 minutes of what the week was like.
The week was good for me. You know that on the other side, I am the convener for the Civil Society Alliance for Nutrition in Uganda.
Yeah, true.
And there are two things that we have been trying together with the government, academia, and the donor community to have launched and put in place. One is the National Information Platform for Nutrition, the second phase. This is really a dashboard that puts together data and information and evidence to drive the national nutrition strategy, the national action plan, and also mobilize the funding that is necessary. And this is in line with the government's development plan, but also the sustainable development goals. So it was launched by the Right Honourable Prime Minister. And of course, I'll take some bragging rights. I was the master of ceremony there. So I'm happy about that. We have been pushing this for a bit of time. Now what we are thinking is hopefully we can push successfully that the policy also comes out. So that was good. The second thing is, you know, my interest in tobacco control. Yeah. So COVID had swallowed everything else almost in health. So we were doing nothing, you know, almost, but only focusing on health. We have revived the tobacco control engagement, and there is some funding now to government because there was a problem for funding to government. Now there is some funding that has come to government through two sources, including the World Health Organization, but from the Bloomberg. So I'm also happy that on that line, we can now have government take its mandate as according to the law, because it was mainly civil society ourselves and you guys, the media, you know, you did a great job. We hope that things can be pushed. And on a personal note, my children are on holiday, so it's a little bit of fun.
I'm surprised you didn't talk about the pageant.
Yes, they go to international school.
You see, this is the problem we have in Uganda.
They actually don't study from Uganda because my wife
lives abroad.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So don't start blaming me and Basi. You are starting the trajectory of blaming.
Yeah, because of course,
Yes.
you people take your children to international schools while Ugandans stay in these
So we are
government
supposed
schools.
to be apologizing.
Yeah, you're
apologizing
supposed to-
for our success.
You're supposed to work hard to ensure education for all is working
As
for
it-
all.
So that means that Karibu has already judged me that I am not.
Of course, you're non-Ugandan. I have.
Has judged that I am not working for education in this country.
Yes.
But I accept to be prejudged without being given a
fair
platform.
hearing. It's okay.
But let's not do that within the law, the electoral processes. At least, personally, that's okay.
No,
but I'm
even-
happy that my
even
children
in the
are
electoral
home.
processes we based on what the law says.
Well,
I'm happy that they are back.
You-
I was struggling to come because you see, I don't stay with them. So when they are around, I want to maximize my time.
You had a good week. indeed.
Absolutely.
Charity, how was the week?
He had a good week. Me, my week was up and down, quite hectic. Number of things happening on both the local and international scene. And I think from a local scene, we continue to see these commodity prices and the fuel price not working for Ugandans. Until you connect with the ordinary citizen, you will not understand how much of trouble it is. I have friends in this city who have fuel cards, so those ones will not understand the pump price. But I also have people that I live with and I see they drive different pump prices looking at them. They will say today this is 6,250, this is 6,020. Shell I think had almost the best price for a long time. It remained at 620, but it changed. Suddenly it now has some places with 640, some places with 650, and yet it is the same Shell, and others have remained at 620. And you also find petrol stations like Rubis changing. Some places it is 640, some places it is 6,000 plain, some places it is 610. I have found it very interesting that petrol stations are mushrooming everywhere. And it has caught my eye. I'm thinking, are they, what we say, plugging in? Are they plugging in wealth? Is there something that isn't there that we are not
The
seeing?
business is lucrative.
Yes, it looks like some people are making money on the back of those that are suffering. But anyway, that is what we see with the ordinary citizen eye. Sometimes it is unfair on the citizen. And I think that except government works for its citizens, then it is no government. Secondly, the other thing that we have seen this week, of course, sugar at least has stabilized at its price level. It is beans on the other hand, and interestingly, sweet
And
bananas. Do you know sweet bananas? Yes, posho has also shot up. Not only posho, beans, those dry rations. Rice has also gone up. I know Baguma, they shop for him, so he will not know these things. Let me inform him, then he will inform others. So basically what's going to happen is that when the schools start, that price is also going to go up, especially for private schools. They're going to add on money. During the last 3 months, we were called at one of the schools where I have a child, and they told us, sorry parents, we are increasing school fees by 800,000. We were already paying 1.6, we have shot to 2 million. Suddenly, it's like university, first semester for a certain course. So it is, that is what is happening on the food level as well. I hope some miracle can happen in terms of the weather. If the weather can stabilize and we produce a bit more, those prices will plummet, because every time we produce and there's a lot of produce on the market, the prices seem to come down. Johnson resigns. Also him, you saw tax cuts. He tried to give incentives to the households. It didn't work. So it is a global problem, you see. Ukraine and Russia have done some things that are making all of us feel uncomfortable.
Does this resignation, make sense to the leadership this side or anywhere else?
I don't know whether it makes sense to the leadership here because, of course, that is Europe. They have their own tides that govern them. And for us on a continent, we have a problem in Congo instead. Remember, we were already too excited that Congo was open and that there was going to be trade that is happening. then came the impasse with the M23. And so there is a need to resolve that. We saw our leaders congregate in Nairobi. So our heads are preoccupied now with Congo and trying to see, can it stabilize? Because we hope that Congo might help to find solutions to the discomfort that we are feeling right now. I think that's what the African leaders are thinking about. But so if Boris and his Europeans are feeling that he's resigned for failure to do with their tax cut, gas is high, the economy is not doing well. You know, in the West, once the economy is tampered with, you, the leader, must see that do. But in Africa, it's not necessarily that, because it's a totally different ballgame.
Thank you. Dr. Gerard, your week, briefly.
Yeah, my week, the positives, of course, there's something to learn from the UK, from the resignation that sometimes it's good to take responsibility. If you do certain things and then you resign, okay? It's a good thing to be responsible for the wrong actions, and also for somebody does not prioritize their mouth. You saw ministers resigning and then telling the prime minister that you also have to go. So I think there are lessons to learn, that once you are appointed by the power B, don't be a sycophant 100%. There are situations when we should take responsibility and know something is bad and be ashamed. You know, the Baganda have a saying that botaba na mpisa, botaswala toba na mpisa. If you don't have to get ashamed, you will not have discipline. And the worst, of course, the inflation. I call it a runaway inflation because it looks like it's really hard to arrest. I'm seeing the Bank of Uganda raising interest rates, but I believe that it's not going to control the inflation. Because this inflation, I'm looking at two factors. The imported inflation, but also the mafiaism, especially within the oil industry. I wouldn't agree that this runaway, you know, prices in oil every day are all being influenced by Russia and Ukraine. There are cartels within. And last time I thought that the government could investigate. But also it may be a challenge because we know that there are a number of players in the political system who are running fuel stations. So it may be hard for us to know the truth. But this is really threatening. And also on a negative note, we saw Shinzo Abe in Japan, a dominant figure in the politics of Japan, being killed at a campaign rally. That was very unfortunate, because Japan is known for not having very fluid democracy. They always have peaceful elections, peaceful campaigns. So it was very, very unfortunate, and it sets a bad precedent for Japan, for the region, and us, who have to learn from other democracies. Thank you.
In just 1 minute, you are a keen follower of the Kenyan politics.
Yes.
How is it going? And looking at what is happening, are the indicators showing green or anything else?
I think last time I was here, I said that democracy should be universal. Of course, there are conditions for democracy, like free press, okay, free ability to express, to associate, to organize. And so I'm seeing that in Kenya, that you don't see candidates' rallies being disrupted all the time like it happens here.
Of Martha Karua and
yes, it may happen once, but in Uganda, how many do happen? From the day you go for nominations, you fight as if you are at a battlefield. So I think we have a lot to learn. Then in Kenya, I think the civil society is very free. When I watch the television, people are analyzing, people are speaking their minds, you know, about what they want the candidates to deliver for them when they're elected into power. But in Uganda, most times civil society is taken as opposition. And yet, let me tell you this, Tusime, there's nothing wrong with civil societies being political. The only problem is when they are partisan. If today I joined the NUP, okay, that will be wrong for me as a civil society actor. Or if I campaigned for NRM and I'm still, you know, in the Africa Leadership Institute. But analyzing the issues that affect, because the civil society is a bridge between the people and the government. So there's nothing wrong. That's why we used to have under the Uganda Governance Monitoring Platform, we used to have the Citizens Manifesto. We generate the aspirations of citizens that the leaders should address from down up to the national level.
Well, before I cross over again to Baguma, briefly, you have been a participant and observer in the Kenyan politics, and it really we can't run away from what is happening across our border. 2007, 2008, it was a crisis. Then 2017, almost another. Is it improving, looking at what is happening now?
Yeah, I think just to divulge into a little bit of detail, the fight is now for Rift Valley and Mount Kenya. The biggest number of voters you find are in the Rift Valley and in Mount Kenya for both the leading contenders, the hustler, who is Ruto, and Raila Odinga. Of course, Uhuru Kenyatta won Rift Valley with 98% of the vote in the last election. And he has thought he will galvanize that win for his candidate, who happens to be Raila. But there are many tribes that are in that Rift Valley. Some most certainly ally with Raila, but there is also a group that allies with the hustler. And so that tension still exists. And most certainly, like every election also with Kenya, there are stories of the hustler moving voters from place to place. Like we always see campaign rallies, that you see him with big rallies. It's just because he has aeroplanes and he has cars he has hired across to move people from one place to another. But I want to say that in Bugoma, where Tangula is, he has quite a bit of support. I can safely put it to about 90 or 80% of Ruto's support in that one place. But that you should not also forget that in Nyanza, Raila also he also enjoys about 98% of that coverage. Now, what is interesting about Mount Kenya is that Ruto is still in the lead for Mount Kenya. Mount Kenya has about 4.8 million voters. Now, Raila, on the other hand, only needs about 30% of, you wanted this politics of Kenya, so I was bringing it to you. So 30% is all he requires to win the vote. I think one thing that I would like Uganda to pick from, like my brother has said, doctor here, is that Uganda should learn to let the people participate. Let the citizens participate, let civil society participate, let the observers participate, let all players participate, let the army pull out of the elections, because elections are centrally a citizen issue. In our constitution, it is plunged in Article 38 and also the right to vote in 59. So we should be able to let that constitution be experienced by the Ugandans. So the things he told you about a free press, don't intimidate them, beat them up, but also the press, on the other hand, need to remember they should be non-partisan. Because what we saw in the last election is that some pressmen became part of the campaign teams of the candidates.
In Kenya or here?
Here in Uganda. Okay. In Kenya, they have remained largely very objective. They bash each other. Okay. You don't see, they have their own private media as candidates, but the public media steers clear and stays on the principles of objectivity and honesty. And I think that if the media plays its role in a balanced manner, we should be able to enjoy more on the Ugandan scene as well.
So 30 days to go, it's so far so good.
30 days to go, there is more pressure building up. You know, elections are tense, but I am happy that there is no killing this time, no cutting off of fingers like the other time with Mosando, and no adulteration. We see more of the IEBC in charge. We didn't see that in the last election here with our electoral commission. Everybody who went there thought they were biased. So I think we have a lot of lessons to pick from Kenya, from Tanzania.
Richard, any lessons to learn from what is happening currently in Kenya?
I was in Kenya. I've been in Kenya, quite lived there a bit. So even 2007 I was living there. As you may know, before COVID I was living there. There's not much that changes in Kenya after, when elections happen and after. And if you look at the players in the political space of Kenya, I'm not sure what the differences are.
Nothing has changed.
Just get your list of names of the big players in Kenya in 1982, in 1993, in 2007. You will find they are the same players.
But Ruto is.
Where did Ruto start? People don't engage with his youthful politics. How did Ruto get? When did he get into politics?
Okay.
When he was a youth, where was he? Who is his political father? Who brought him into politics?
Okay.
Yeah, he's a political son of Moi.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's not family, really. So for me,
You think nothing much has changed, and you don't expect
let me tell you. You see, there is one thing that is constant, and that's why I keep telling you that this no change is interesting for me. The phrase that because there is always change happening, it's always the same thing. In Kenya, when electoral politics started, every 5 years, the political players are the same. They just change the jacket. They call it Rainbow, and they call it Azimio, and they call it, but it is just
Kenya
the same
Kwanza.
players. And look at them. Once they get into power, because they are business linked, because they are directors in the same companies, because they have been families, because they've gone to many high schools and universities together, because they have been youth leaders in the groups together, they come again and start doing the same thing. The National Youth Service, there is a corruption scandal by government in every region, and we are talking about tens of millions of dollars. Just look at it. It's public information, it's out. They look at the way they get themselves onto boards, it's the same. So while on the outside here it's the same players, they just cross themselves. It's a name, by the way. They just name their vehicle differently.
We look at Kenyan
this one
politics.
is here. No, look at Martha.
Karua.
What did Martha say about
Raila.
the other day?
In 2017.
These things are here, online, recorded. So, for us to expect earthquakes across, no, for me, I'm not part of that expectation.
Well, this is dialogue, and we dedicated a few minutes to look at a diverse of issues around the region. But let's come back to Uganda, and especially this concern about our children, the learners in school who had spent, and when I talk about our children, I remember when somebody pointed out last week that it's not every children that really is suffering about this issue. It's only and only those who are in government schools. The Bagumas and others who are in international schools.
No, let's mention which schools our children go to when we are seated. It's a transparency thing. Because I'll tell you a story. Because I've also been in this civil society business. But as you know, I try not to make
You still there?
Yeah, but I try not to make so much noise, as you know. So they call me. I am still there, yes. That's where I am. Civil society. I have also had opportunity, and I've told you the things, probably private, that like when I was in Norway, the office where I was sitting was funding some civil society groups here. So anyway, let me tell you the story. I get invited to speak.
Yeah.
These things of panel strike invite us, all of us, at the workshop. I think it was in Sheraton. CSOs and I think government wastage or something. So I go, and I'm quite appalled at the wastage that government at central and local government level can have. I'm like, yes, sure. So, but when I reach, I start reflecting on ourselves, also in CSO. I'm thinking, are we really better? Are we a different pedigree? No, why don't you let me finish my story? Because it's related to the question you have asked me. Yes, and I'm sorry that I tell stories in order to get to the answer. So when I reached outside, the minister's vehicle was parked, and next to it were about another 5 or 6 NGO cars. Then I thought, okay, so what is the difference between these cars? So I took the vehicles, the minister's vehicle, the number, then I took the head of advocacy. I want to mention the NGO's head of advocacy, associate director, they call him, was there, then the other one, head of programs and what. So when I went, I changed my slides. I said, I think everybody in this hall is familiar with these pieces of equipment. This is the minister's car, this is the NGO 1, NGO 2, NGO 3, 4, 5.
They are all similar.
I said, okay, let's first ask ourselves. This NGO says it works in 18 districts in Uganda. In actual sense, it works in a sub-county in each of the districts, one sub-county, and covers 2 parishes. So it's 2 parishes, so it's 32 parishes. The minister, whether efficient or not, covers the whole country. What informs us that we should have the same Land Cruiser types? What informs that decision?
So are you insinuating that they are part of the bigger problem? So,
I don't want to call it a problem. No. We have a challenge, and I've talked about this challenge, and last week we talked, and even the other week, of education. That first, like journalists, we talk in the CSOs, we talk as if we are holier. That we do a lot. And we earn high salaries, several of us. Our children go to private schools, many of us. And for me, that cannot be a point of apology. But the same NGO, which is supporting many primary school children from very poor backgrounds, of course, obviously, has to pay its national director a certain level of pay. They have to rent for him or her a certain type of house. They have to get for them a certain type of car. That does not negate their contribution to the education sector and their support for the girl child or for the what in the communities. So that's where I start from. The fact that the national director or the head of programs or what, or the one who is heading a project of girl child education, because she comes in a good car and gets a few millions of salary, does not negate their contribution. But they still contribute.
But the fact remains.
That does not take away.
The fact remains that the children that are suffering are only those who are in government schools.
There's no doubt about that. I started with the other one, because that's where we started from. Baguma's children go. Baguma's children. You were all coalescing around that. I said, but where do our children go? Don't they go to private schools? All of us. Does that mean that we are not concerned about the children of others? Really? Does that mean that the pastor of this church, my friend, you know he's my friend, who really caters for so many orphaned children, because he drives a big Land Cruiser with private number plates, does that take away the care he gives to these children?
No.
So that I wanted us to steer a little bit away from that. It kind of takes away from the children we are focusing on.
Thank you.
Now, let me tell you, I was here, I told you, you can bring the recording, that the cycle of the teachers' issue has been the same. Doctor, you were here.
Yes.
I said by the time we come back, they would have discussed with the president. Forget all the others they discussed with. They always, the processes, they start with the president, go to all the other officials who say and they disagree with them, go back to the president, and they go back to class. I can promise that we shall have another teacher strike.
Really?
We are going to have another teacher strike. They have been promised things which will not be fulfilled, and they will strike again.
What now does that actually mean to the whole education sector, and especially the children?
The chairs on which we are seated on a keg, an explosive keg, which if it gets a spark, an ignition, it will blow all of us. I said it last time, I'm saying it again.
Dr. Werihe, reading to the the compromise between teachers and government, and tell us whether you think now the children will actually get what they deserve in class.
First of all, by the time they went for the strike, they were discontented. And when Mr. Philbert Baguma announced that they were suspending as they continue engagement with the government, other teachers, I saw others actually even in the media, saying this group has been bribed without, of course, evidence, but that's what they are alleging, meaning that there are already divisions. Like he predicted last time. He said these groups are divided, and bringing them together to agree on one thing could be problematic, very difficult. So I also predict, since there was no figure, okay, and then exact timeline, and they simply said, let's suspend as we continue engagement. And I have seen this week, I saw a document where government is also talking about harmonizing salaries of, say, UPDF soldiers to have the private begin at 1 million. So you find that the government is actually overstretched. And I can assure you, like he said, there will be another strike of IT teachers. But of course, what will happen in the education sector? We're going to see education deteriorating, and this also is one of the factors that contribute to the school dropout rates, where we enroll 10 million, maybe, sorry, 1 million, by the time they reach P7, only 320,000 are reaching PLOE. The rest have vanished. So it's going to continue happening.
Charity, now, do you, are you really, are you now concerned that the motivation, the morale has really been depleted going, through the 3 weeks of the strike, and now they are back to school, back to class? Are you concerned that it may affect the delivery of output by teachers to learners?
Yeah, I am concerned. I'm particularly concerned about our education sector, and I think yesterday we had a useful discussion holistically about the sector. You see, the law is clear on what the expectations of the sector should be. And if I had to produce statistics, I will start with the 10.7 million UPE students, or the ones that go through universal primary education. There are 10.7 million. And I will also tell you that of those 10.7 million, Uwezo report that came out this week or last week by Tuaweza said 69% of those children could not read or even write. And that story was published in the Monitor newspaper. So these things are very concerning, because as a country, if you want to go forward, education is one of the thrust areas for you to pay attention to. While we were having this conversation yesterday, many teachers called in, and the ones that called in said, we are discouraged. The arts teachers especially, it wasn't the science, it was arts. So I feel like I don't want to be part of the sector anymore. I feel like I don't want to teach anymore. There's the threat of we can always recruit new ones. There are many who are in school and they will come out and we shall recruit them. But you see, I think that is also unfortunate. Why? Because a teacher gains experience over a period of time.
True.
And the more experience that they gain, the more they know how to deal with the issue. It's, if you've never been an editor of a newspaper, you don't know what it means to cut down a story of 1,000 words and fit it in a space of 560 words. You will just cut randomly, and then whatever you've cut is not adding up. There is no introduction, there is no body, there is no thread that is linking this story to make it sensible for whoever is reading. And I use that experience because I know that it takes technical expertise and training of a period of time for you to be that editor. And that is now for the newsroom. Now, if I go back to the teaching, I should also say that a teacher will be able to assess his learners. Let's assume he has 300 learners, because the ratios are like 1 to 300, for primary school especially. For secondary, I'm not certain, but for primary, that's about the ratio. He looks at his learners, and from the way he's giving exercises, he's able to tell, I can improve this one here, this one needs improvement here. But what we have seen is that the teachers are getting discouraged. Now, once they are discouraged, like they are, and they have no motivation, they feel no reason why they should wake up to go and teach somebody's child. We are going to train more and more half-baked people. And it will affect us as a society. These hospitals which you see around us, at one time, even if you have billions of shillings, you will find yourself having to use that hospital at one time. You may not have the opportunity to fly out, and you need to go to that hospital. But find a half-baked doctor, and what does that mean? You will be dead. Or those of your relatives, or somebody who you love so much. And you'll be wondering, why were they gambling? I wish I'd taken this person abroad. But remember, by the time you're going to fly them, it takes time. So if we need to have ourselves go somewhere, we need to fine-tune, understand what are the teachers saying. We are living in an environment that is saying that the economics have changed. The cost of living has gone up. I'm a teacher, I have children, I have to live, I have to eat. And I am saying just enhance my salary. Don't threaten me, you're taking me off a payroll, don't threaten me, and then now say, go back to class. Yes, Mr. Baguma has told you here, they will strike again, and I tell you they will strike again.
Really?
But yes, he's not lying, it is the truth. Unfortunately, it's the truth, because we saw it in 2008 when Amama Babazi was a prime minister. They have, since how many strikes have they had since he left being a prime minister? Like 4 strikes. But he had the problem on his hand as a prime minister. He's the first one who faced the first strike. But they've continued to strike. And the issues of whenever they are promised, the promises are not fulfilled. And I think that is where the problem starts. If the promises were fulfilled, and yesterday, I think Mr. Mjimba, in the Ministry of Education, he produced a whole report showing that the teachers' salaries have been enhanced over a period of time. But I think that the enhancement, as has been happening, is not across the board. It happens for some sections of teachers and not others. Now, I think what needs to happen is that this enhancement needs to be consistent. And even this science thing, that the science teachers are being enhanced against the arts. It has caused a rift. It's the same thing, the poor man's child and the rich man's child, which also Mr. Baguma has alluded to. That if you have a certain amount of money, you'll find yourself needing to take your child to. Unfortunately for me, most of the children I'm looking up after are all in government schools. And that is why I'm passionate about government schools improving. But I also went through government school. I studied in government schools, and that time I was proud to be part of government schools. That time government schools performed even better than private schools. But now what we have seen is that private schools have overtaken government schools, and government is now being negated to almost not provide anything. And yet the law that I have quoted for you, the Education Act of 2008, says it is the central role of government to ensure education for all and to ensure the enjoyment of these teachers while they deliver in their classes. So for me, I think there is also need to go back to the law, review where the education system is coming from, and live according to the set statutes.
Don't you find any valid reason in the argument that that we need to do it in a phased manner? Now it is time for science teachers, but there will be another time for arts teachers. Don't you find? Don't you sympathize with government? Because you talked actually about teachers striking. I mean, the strike starting in 2013, 2012, around there, and still persisting. But it cuts across. Not only teachers are striking. You remember doctors, interns, nurses, midwives, and even was it last week, this week? Even local government workers, I mean, had also threatened to go on strike. Even in the academia, there have been strikes. I mean, universities, professors and what. Don't you find government, to some extent, right to say, let's start with this one, then we'll look at you? I mean, look into your issues.
And for me, therein, Apollo, is the problem. You see, government makes promises and does not live up to those promises. I would have expected government to make a promise and live by it. If we had a precedent, in law we refer to them as precedents. If we had something that we could reference to and say, aha, the other time they promised and now they fulfilled at this stage.
The doctors and all those workers in the medical fraternity somehow now are sorted, I hope.
No, the intern doctors are not. Even these ones that were striking recently, they are not yet sorted. They just went back, and there is an immunization that is coming, and they are saying they're not going to be immunized. They're not taking part in the immunization. And remember, there are those that were laid off. So let's first leave the doctors and return to the education.
And the education sector.
So you're saying, isn't it true that government is saying, let's deal with these ones first? And I am saying,
with limited resources.
So the resources where science teachers are going to earn about 4.5 million, Apollo. Why don't you pick 2 million and give it to the science teacher and pick 2 million and give it to the arts teacher? Why is it that you say, okay, now I'm starting with the science one to give 4.5? I remember, okay, the policy of the president, okay, what was in his background was that he said, I want to change the mindset of Ugandans to become innovative, and we become a scientific nation, that we innovate more and have more things we can sell to the world, okay? Like electric vehicles, assembling plants. For him, that is his mindset. But you see, it can't happen overnight. It is a thing that happens over a period of time. It's the same thing like mindset change. So we need to support both the art side and the science side. Even these scientists cannot live in a vacuum. We need laboratories for secondary schools. We need, and those laboratories are not there, and you're just increasing the money of the science teacher. Then how is it going to work? And the learner himself is not interested in studying sciences because they are saying, oh, physics is very hard, all this. These people who have changed the mind of the children start from the kindergarten.
Thank you. Thank you so much, our viewers. It is the dialogue and the discussion and the debate around arts or sciences still rages on. My name is Simapolo. We'll go for a short break. When we return, Baguma will tell us whether the current situation where we have one group of teachers motivated and another group really demotivated with very low morale will actually help push the education agenda forward. We'll go for a break and we'll return shortly. Welcome back to the dialogue. My name is Simapolo, and on the panel we have Richard Baguma Tinkasimire, and he is a communication specialist. We have Charity Ahimbisibwe Kalebo, and she is the executive director, Electoral Laws Institute. We have Dr. Gerard Werihe Wanzara, and he is the head of civic engagement and research at Africa Leadership Institute, an NGO that does oversight on parliament and other matters of governance in Uganda. We are looking at matters that made headlines through the week, and especially looking at the compromise between teachers and government to call off the strike, and looking at whether having two groups in class in charge of the education sector, one group is motivated and another one somehow has a depleted morale, and we ask whether this actually will affect the delivery of the education services across the board. Richard, I promised viewers that when we return, you'll tell us whether you think that has an effect, a direct effect, to the delivery of the education services across the country.
Thank you, Apollo. I have been asking a question, and I haven't had a satisfactory answer. Maybe I will get. I was asking, in primary school, are there differentiated science and arts teachers? And I was asking because primary school is the foundation of education. I have not had a satisfactory answer, by the way. I asked the other day, I was seated with one of the very top people in the ministry responsible for education in this country, and I asked him, So how does this work at the foundational level of education? One of the things, by the way, when you read the education strategy in this country, is early childhood development.
Correct.
So who is the science teacher at that level, the foundational level? I think this decision is wrought with many roadblocks, and I'm not sure that it achieves the intended objective. You see, you can have good intentions, but good intentions don't always get good results. Sometimes good intentions actually get bad results. I think we are seeing this here. You see, I have said before, and I will insist, that pay parity is a factor of human resource processes. And pay parity comes with pay disparity. It happens in the private sector, it happens wherever. That has its positives, but it has its negatives. Now, the decision, the strategic decision to pay scientists, and it was not science teachers, it was scientists, to pay scientists in government good pay, competitive a bit to what is in the region and what is elsewhere, is a good strategic decision, no question about it. Now, the operationalization of that good strategic intention has become problematic, and it is generating negative consequences. And one of them is this of teachers.
The decision to enhance salaries for science teachers, to you, was a bad decision.
It is a good decision.
Science teachers.
What is bad of the decision is the non-enhancement of arts teachers. So the problem is not enhancement of science teachers.
I get you.
Yes, that is a good thing, absolutely. Let it happen. What the problem is the lack of sensitivity, the lack of appreciation of the role played equally by the arts teachers at the foundational and even the high school level of education. And for me, that's where the problem is. And the second one that I told you is the obstinacy. Even when it has been pointed out with action, with evidence that this is a bad thing, the obstinacy to continue with it.
To insist on.
That's, I also said last year, and it is wrong. So we need to unpack these wrong things so that we don't throw out our baby with the bathwater. We don't throw out our pay for the science teachers, which is a good thing, with the general, with the bad, things that come out of it. I think that's important. So now, and I said last time, that you see, the arts teachers will go back to class. The arts teachers were, by the way, we don't listen to them. They were striking, saying, look, you promised us last time in writing. But even if we had not written, we trusted that you have the honor in your position, fountain of honor. That the fountain is not dry.
But here comes...
That the fountain will keep flowing.
But, well, here comes COVID. Here comes the economic rundown of affairs.
Yes.
And we tell you,
yes,
now let's work on this group, and then you will come on board later.
Fair enough. So let's look at it in several ways. If you make, 300% increase in
300%.
the pay of one, and you say for you have 0, how strategic, how balanced, how honest, how fair, how just, how is that?
That is the problem.
That is a huge problem. And then you have taught us over the years that you only respond when we scream, shout, kick, scratch. That is when you respond. How come? When we have had this promise, this pledge in writing, and after a lot of engagement, with a bargaining agreement that we agreed upon together, you break it arbitrarily, arrogantly, and obstinately. I think for me, that is where the issue is.
Okay, but Matt, back to my question. Do you think this disparity in the level of motivation will have a direct effect on delivery of education service?
You see, our answer is not in the future. Our answer is in the past. It has happened. Our answer is that it is currently happening. So I don't see it is negatively impacting on the delivery by teachers in schools, in government schools. By the way, it is also wrong to assume that it is just affecting the science teachers. When you have tension, when you have animosity, when you have disagreement, when you have jealousy, when you have this driven in a big way in the same staff room, both groups of teachers will not deliver properly. They need a conducive working environment. We have now fouled it up. It's smelly, it's dirty. So we can't say that it is going to. So yes, the answer is yes, and it is not in the future. The answer is in the past, and it is now.
Good. Charity, I ask you, this discussion has been on for some time, that look, you can't make a 300% increment to one group and leave another group, yawning. And I ask you, why do you think has government remained adamant? Don't they read into this argument and appreciate the fact?
I actually can't explain why government has remained adamant, but I want to pick up from what Mr. Baguma here has just elucidated and very comfortably done it. He says, Article 42 of our Constitution says that when resolving issues of public administrators, or in what we call public administration and management, you see, the president as head of state, he also is the head of public management. Okay? Now, as resolving the issues of public administration, three fundamental principles must be applied in Article 42. Equality, fairness, and justice. Now, those three words to be unpacked. What is equality? 300% here and 0%, is that equality? No. Is that fair? Is that just? So those are three key words that are stated in the law to ensure continuity and consistency and transparency, all which are fundamental principles on which public administration sleeps or lies or is framed. Now, therefore, the government is aware that you cannot move away from those principles. It is what your constitution is saying. This is where we start from. So where are they coming from? You see, the base for where they are basing to take this decision is not there. There is no foundation. When you build your house on the sand, what happens? It falls down. When you build your house on the rock, what happens? It stands or it falls. Where are you building your house? So the foundation is not there. And yet you have a foundation in the Constitution. Can you go back and build on that foundation which you already have? Can we see this justice and fairness in public affairs and in management of public affairs? So I can't understand, and I don't think I will ever understand, why government has decided not to listen to itself and not to obey its own programs and set out laws, and not to live by the practices they have established by law themselves.
Dr. Werihe, we have read into sentiments that probably the contention and the argument that science should be prioritized in this country could have political connotations. I don't know, it may not be per se that we need to push science ahead. I don't know what you make of it, especially that government has remained adamant even when they have been told, even these arts, humanities are important.
If you look at some Asian tigers like Korea, they did prioritize sciences. for transformation of the countries, but it is not something that can be addressed only through salaries. It must be a comprehensive plan. For instance, what are we doing about vocational technical education? Because that is where people...
science also.
That's also science. Because people innovate there. They use their hands and machines, and it's very practical. Actually, if you wanted people to go and work, say, in Kira Motors, at that level, get some income, but using their skills, these are vocational courses. They're not really sciences attained in secondary school. So, for those who are saying it's political, I don't know. But if I'm to take what the president said, that transformation of the country with the science at the forefront, then we need to look at science comprehensively. Do we have incubation centers that when people come from here, then they can apply their skills to innovate?
So,
because
improving the remuneration of scientists or science teachers is not enough. That is your...
It's not enough. Like my colleagues have said, there is already animosity in schools. You have 4 million, the other one is earning 800,000. You are going to the same market, buying the same things. So how are those people going to coexist in the staff room, in the school compound, even where they go for shopping? So we should have a clear plan. And by the way, this disparity is also affecting local governments. In local governments, you know that scientists are also being given more, okay, those environmental health sciences. Then there are other people who are saying, but urban planners, some of them studied the Bachelor of Arts in Urban Planning, and they did geography at A level. So they say, is geography science? Why is this one earning more than me? So we need...
So the issue is actually adding more salt, and it continues to boil.
Yes, it continues to boil. And let me tell you something. I heard when they were talking about how they have been enhancing salaries gradually. Well, there is this increment, if you quote, say, from 2000. It's also because the currency has been depreciating. So you find that you have added the salary, but it's not buying any more than what someone used to use the same money to buy the same item.
That way.
Yes, but so it is incremental based on the cost of living. But right now, the situation has worsened. You know the inflation rate right now, above 6%. In reality, if you go to the local commodities, like I told you, you can find 100% or 200% increment in particular commodities. So what we are saying is that let there be equity in pay, like she said, justice, and we follow our constitution. We should not pin teachers, threaten them when you hear news that other people are sharing 40 million each somewhere. And I saw people computing on social media, such a case. 40 million times 527, 21 billion, so they can save there. Then they also say government is planning to take over Rocco construction. Others are asked at 202 billion. Others are saying, what happened to national housing and construction company? Why can't we just improve this one and then save money and do something else? So those questions will begin coming up.
What are your expectations? Are they the same as Bagumas and Charity, that will soon see another strike? I mean, from teachers?
Yeah, it will occur. Probably actually next financial, because they have told them next financial year, but there's no figure that has been attached.
I will ask Baguma why he thinks that teachers will again strike. Why?
I can tell you that when you take the data that we have, you look at how many times strikes have occurred and promises have been made, and I told you the process. I don't want to say it again. I've said
there is always a new viewer. Beginning and the end.
Yeah.
Well, why are you?
Because the players are the same.
On both sides.
Not on both sides. On one side, the side that does not keep its promises. And I don't envisage that habitual. Next year the players will have changed. The ones who don't keep their promises. So that is why I'm saying that taking the history of this and looking at the likelihood of what will be in the future, this situation is going to play out again.
I don't know if Charity also has your opinion.
I cannot contradict Mr. Baguma in any way. I think that Mr. Baguma
He's a prophet.
is a diplomat.
Well, thank you so much, our viewers. I think we need to shift and move on, and hope that I was happy to see the Speaker of Parliament and the whole legislative arm take up the issue again. You remember they said
Yes.
we need a comprehensive statement on how government is going to handle this matter of teachers. I think it is.
Apollo.
We have to give them
Apollo. Me, I am going to applaud you alone for your optimism, because we need people who have extreme optimism in this society.
I know.
Otherwise, we can. But the Speaker
are they
of
playing
Parliament,
together?
the Speaker of Parliament stopped discussion of the teachers' strike.
Correct.
You are a parliamentary report. They said we have a matter of national importance. She stopped it.
Correct.
So after
Before the budget was passed.
now, so that is one. Secondly, the Minister for Education. So what is the Speaker of Parliament going to do? If the Minister
No,
for
we are
Education...
talking about Parliament.
Yeah, what is Parliament going to do?
The
If the
legislative
Minister
arm of
of
government.
Education does not bring a statement in practical terms, what is that Parliament going to do to the
Nothing.
Minister for Education?
Do you share the same
I'm-
sentiments?
Yeah, as you know, we monitor parliament. But one of the weaknesses we have seen in the Uganda's parliament is that it does not bite. Actually, cabinet usually laughs and says decisions of parliament are advisory.
They say
Now,
they use the word mere.
mere advisory. Then when they get an opportunity of doing their role of appropriation at the budget level, they don't utilize the opportunity. Because they knew when they were discussing the budget between January until the time it was passed, they knew this problem was existing. But they never used their powers
To
to
push for an allocation.
exactly
that
to
will
correct
cater
the
for
budget
both.
and know that if we are giving this, let's give this percentage. So after the budget, then you have a committee. I doubt whether we are going to have any results from that committee.
Now
That
I
was
see,
appointed.
I see the level of confidence you have in your parliament. Charity, the compromise had been reached, then parliament says no, we want a comprehensive statement. Do you think that is a positive on the side of parliament? You also have that low level of confidence in parliament.
No, I agree with the gentleman here. What they have explained is real. One, before the budget got passed, the members of parliament
It was
had...
a mistake, now they are pushing to
There is
correct that
nothing
mistake.
like any budget can pass by mistake. That cannot happen.
Because
Then
the
what
budget
is your,
process begins in
what is
September.
your
That
role
is why
as members of
supplementaries-
parliament in terms
That's
of
why
appropriation?
supplementaries are real.
Apollo, it is not true. One of the central
Realigning the
roles
budget.
of parliament is
It's
appropriation.
okay.
They legislate, but they appropriate. And appropriation is key to them in terms of how they manage the process. That's why you see, even when the members of opposition came out and said, for us, we ally with the teachers, we feel for the teachers, I said, did I miss something? I asked, did I miss something? Why didn't you arrest it at the time when the review process was taking place? And they said, we did. We wrote a minority report. And I mentioned and said, from now going forward, I'm going to pay attention to minority reports more than the official reports. Because it looks like the minority reports have a lot of things that we're not paying attention to, which are indicators that there's a problem coming ahead. And if we get to know what the minority is saying, maybe we shout about it a bit more. The other people might say, there's a problem. Maybe we first stop. Let's review what is happening here. What should have happened with Parliament is not for them to call out after the teachers have gone on strike, 3 weeks have gone by, some children have not gone to school, the morale is down. That is a political statement the Speaker was making. She's making a political statement just to boost morale, but it's not going to leave its time. At the end of the day, once the political statement has died down and nothing has been done, she will say, you know, for me, my role in parliament is to ask the minister to come. The minister has not brought anything. And yes, the law is clear. It is the minister who can make policy advisory.
Well, thank you so much, our viewers, and thanks to the panel here. We have to shift and move on. And the teachers may have lost the battle. The concern is that will they really teach our children? My name is Simapolo, and let's now look at the halabalu around Uganda's middle income position. You remember the president in his State of the Nation address when he said that the budget speech when he said that he was really concerned why the Minister of Finance did not tell Ugandans that we are already in middle income. And later the World Bank officials came out and said, no, you are far from that. You have to work hard. You're not. And then the discussion and the ping pong has been going on. Now this week, UBOS came out again and said, no, Uganda is in the middle income. I don't know why it is, why we are really yearning and fighting to be declared as middle income country. Baguma.
Let's take me as an example. Why would I care that we are middle income? Me, Baguma. Why would I give a damn that we are middle income? So what does it mean that we are middle income?
No, Kenya.
Me, Baguma, do I know what it means? I don't know what it means. That you see today we are not middle income, or when was the budget ready? 12th or something. That today on 11th we are not middle income, and on 12th we have become middle income. So what is supposed to happen there? What is that supposed to mean to me? Now me, an average Ugandan with a certain stake. Now think about the millions, because I am not in the majority, at least in the economic quintile in this country. No. Think about the majority. What does that, in fact, mean to them? And I like the word hula baloo that you used, because I think that's what it is. I think it's noise. That's what I think. I think it's just noise among the elite. If whatever it's supposed to portray and and divert or whatever, it is. But let's say Tanzania is middle class.
Even Kenya.
Kenya is middle class.
So we also want.
So what to the slum dweller or in Nairobi? And you know Nairobi has the largest slum.
Kibera.
So what? So that one. And for me, I think these are the debates we should be engaging with. We should be asking the people who know economics and finance issues, what is the need for the population to be middle income? But what does it also take away? Because what we don't discuss is that, for example, the level of development support that you get, when you become middle income, it goes away.
Really?
Part of it goes away. Yes. Because when a lot of the development support goes to LDCs,
low developed countries.
yes. So when you become MDC, then that support goes away from you. So are we ready really to lose that support? Are we clamoring to lose that support? Because that's what we see. Now when you see the people clamoring to lose that support, they are the people who don't benefit from that support. So they can lose it.
Maybe they have their own reasons.
Of course, they are not stupid. No, they have their reasons. I don't know their reasons. I can speculate about their reasons. But I can also say that you can have at least 100 times the president has spoken about being middle income. So for me, it's a perennial wish.
It's a wish.
It's a perennial desire. It's a long-standing dream.
But is it bad to wish so?
No, that is diversionary. For me, that question is diverting me from my discussion. Because now we are just discussing simply bad and good. It's you see, bad and good, even when you are totally developed, there is bad and good.
Correct.
So bad and good is in every situation. But we are talking about this forceful propulsion of Uganda into middle income status.
You call it forceful now.
By all means, it must be. And I have said here before, and I will say again, that statistics are like a torture victim. When the torturer is still at their job, they will make a confession. So you can torture statistics to make a certain confession. So you can torture your GDP to make a confession that you are middle class, middle income. And I think that is where we are. Just think about it. Why would the World Bank
come out to say?
Yes. Why would the World Bank position itself to clash with the Ugandan government? The World Bank has no benefit in disagreeing with the host government. In diplomacy, this disagreeing with the host government is a very difficult situation.
It is hard.
So for you to take a conscious decision, this decision is not taken at country level. It's been assessed through. And if you sit in a technical meeting, it will be defended. But you see, the declaration of Uganda as a middle income country is not economic, it's political. That even the Minister for Finance, at reading of the budget, skirted around that subject. Until the boss, the actual Minister of Finance in this country came and said, why are you fearing to say it? I will say it. So by force, we must be middle income.
By force?
Yes, so what do you expect the head of UBO sincerely to do? What would you like the head of, as long as they like to still have their job? What can they say? Contradict the fountain of honor? It's very dishonorable to do, man. So I think for me, the debate about being middle income or not is an economic, is scientific, and when we get there, I can tell you, these debates will not exist.
Good. Charity, what do you see in this this ping pong? We are there, we are not there, you are not there. The argument has been, you see, we use it, this system of analysis. Now, if we use this one, we are there. If we use the other one, we are not there. I think that is, they are in agreement, I think, on that line.
Yes, Apollo. And it is sad that we have to be caught in this place where we are. And I think Mr. Baguma has raised a key thing. If you move to MDC, there is money that you lose out, and LDC, you still get a certain amount of support. In that light, there is politics as well. That the World Bank would also like to have people they keep supporting.
Really?
Oh, yes. So if they have funds and they have no one to support, then what happens?
Oh.
So there is politics in there as well. However, that said, I am not saying that them coming out and diplomatically stating, because they never say diplomatic things, they don't say. They would rather die with it but not say, not come out boldly and say, please, you're telling a lie. That
or ask someone else to say
they would rather scatter around and say, did you, is it possible? They will not say. Even when you want them to be a muchiga, they will not. Okay? The people in Kanungu believe, for me, I will just say it as it is. If I want to go to the toilet, I will tell you I'm going there. I will not start pretending about it. But the World Bank would not do that. If the World Bank came out and said, it means there are indicators to this middle income status.
And they have the standard.
And the indicators are the following. Corruption. How have we been? Let us just be honest, even at country level, without UBOS dragging in UBOS or NDP3, because the NDP3 is clear. NDP3 has told you you lose $2.8 billion US annually to corruption.
And that's a government document.
And you are hoping that you are going to get 2.1 billion from oil. Remember, it is already less money than what you're losing to corruption. How do you then jump to middle income status? The debt burden. When you look at our debt in this budget that was just read, we have now catapulted to 16.1 trillion. Those are indicators. So even if the World Bank so wished to say we agree with you, these things are so plain in black and white, honestly. Where can you put them? The debt is clear. Even government itself produced that debt. And we borrow to service that debt.
Are all those considered in determining?
Those are indicators.
Not
you had big brains here asking you about where are your parameters. Because I mean, we need to have a thrust. Where are we gauging you from? So if I'm going to say you are an A student, where is the thrust? You should have got 95%. So if you get 72, you get 30.
I thought it was a simple calculation of the GDP per capita.
But the GDP per capita, for you to calculate the GDP per capita, it relies on these factors that I'm talking about.
Okay.
So your GDP is not just going to jump without these issues here reflecting themselves. You can't. It just doesn't happen spontaneously like that. You cannot go to Norway, for example, and find that there are people who are still using the bush to help themselves. You cannot go to, think of any country, Australia. They have those...
so the middle income status is reflected even in the life, in the standard of living.
To some extent, not 100%, but to some extent. You would see that there is a shift of people from poverty to the money economy. And that is why parish development model was being touted, or is still being touted, that we want to shift people from I cannot eat a meal a day to this money economy. That would not be happening if you had actually attained this middle income status, because it means that your tax base would be bigger. You would have places where you're picking taxes from. Do you know we have a shortfall in terms of tax collection? Now, you cannot say, therefore, your GDP is flying the other side, but you have these shortfalls here. And you even don't have where to get the taxes from. Apollo, do you understand me? So the GDP does not exist in a vacuum. It exists within the factors that exist.
So why are we pushing to be in middle income? Is it because we have Kenya there, we have Tanzania?
We have Tanzania there. And
we
of
also
course,
want to align with our neighbors. And
in the region, I think we don't want to look like we are like South Sudan. We are somewhere, we have moved to go. There are things which have changed. And indeed, there are certain things which have changed for us. And it's true. People who have lived abroad for like 20 years, when they come here, they see ultimate changes. And they go like, wow. In fact, even when you take an aerial view of Kampala, whatever, you see these changes.
Dramatically changes.
Yes, so those are the ones that are, I think, pushing us to say, but why can't we also be? Those strides that we have taken, why can't we also just, but the method for a country to be declared a middle income country is clear cut.
Good.
And it is internationally tested, and it has been accepted. There is a standard, and we must work to fit that standard.
Thank you.
We cannot assume to push ourselves into that standard.
Thank you. Dr. Gerard, why are we discussing this? Did Kenya and Tanzania first urge you to be declared middle income?
I will not go to Tanzania and Kenya first. Let me first address Uganda. Around 2016, the country set the objective of reaching the middle income status by 2020. And there were preconditions in the National Development Plan.
Yes.
At that time, we were developing, our GDP was growing at 6%. That was between 2016 and 2019. And then there was a condition that for us to achieve the middle income status by 2020, we should be able to double our GDP to about 10%. But in 2019 and 2021, our GDP growth dropped
to 3.
by about 2.9% to 3%, meaning it was far lower than what we imagined we could achieve. It was supposed to depend on the following: one, that we shall have signed a financial investment decision in the oil industry, and so money will come in.
And
two,
we signed it.
That our oil industry will have taken off before 2020, and so our economy shall be growing. And then three, that this will propel, the investment will propel industrialization, and so the jobs will increase. Now, what happened after 2020? We see GDP dropping, employment levels dropping, level of industrialization going, unemployment levels, unemployment levels went up, but employment levels dropped. So we saw locusts coming in, like the president admitted. And if I'm to quote the head of state this year at the celebration of NRM anniversary, he said it was unfortunate the middle income status was not near because of these other factors that I have mentioned. So he projected that maybe we shall reach there by 2025, 2026 financial year. Now, it beats my understanding that between January and now, when we are growing at 3%, and all other factors we did not achieve them, we are now saying we have entered the middle income status. So it is questionable.
I allow you to speculate.
Yeah, but you know, countries should not move on speculation. When the World Bank comes and says no, Uganda is far from the middle income status, because Ugandan, the average GDP is on, per capita GDP is on 850. It means we are in the lower.
No, I wanted, I was allowed you to speculate on why.
On why they are trying to.
Why are we?
One, there could be political connotations. Maybe, as some people say, you are not working hard. Others want to say we are working hard. You see we have even achieved the middle income status, and everything is going on well. But let me bring the other issue. The excitement about middle income and using GDP as a measure of a country's progress in itself has a lot of weaknesses. Me, I would prefer if a minister came here and told me that we use the Human Development Index, okay, which is measuring education, health, longevity, well-being of the people, and you show us that this has changed. The number of people who are defecating, who are doing open defecation, are now going to the latrines. That people who are starving in Karamoja now have plenty of food. That people who had jiggers in Mayuge are no longer there. That malnourished children in Chisoro are not there now. People are feeding well. So if you told me that, then it would make much more sense to the ordinary person.
Correct.
Instead of bundling. By the way, many Ugandans, maybe they don't know, GDP per capita measures all the income divided by the population. But how many are in that bracket of trillions, others in billions, others in millions, and then those who don't even know what to eat. So I think we should be honest to ourselves. We are not saying the country is not, the government is not performing, but we should not live in utopia, an imaginary world. We should base on reality.
Good. Charity, as we wind up, in just 3 minutes, conclude on this matter and any other matter we have not touched. We have to wind up.
I think that one of the things government needs to pay attention to is the citizenry, because a government cannot progress without its citizens growing as well. Production is done by the citizen, and I think he tried to highlight the human capital development, and that is the thrust. If you look at the budget and the way it is structured, they always say human capital development will be central. But we come back the next year and nothing changed from the previous year, and nothing changed from the previous year.
It has taken the lion's share of the budget.
It keeps taking the lion's share. Oh, no, it hasn't taken the lion's share, because I think security has
human capital development took the biggest share. I think 8.7 trillion?
Yeah, I think 7. Last budget was 7.7 this time. I'm not
About
certain.
28%.
28? Okay, then that would be 8.7. Now, the ultimate factors within there, we don't see a shift in them. Education and health. We have continually remained with the same things. Even health center threes have not been, they have not metamorphosized to some extent to change the livelihood of the ordinary Ugandan. If we had good health centers, do you know what, Apollo? Even if people just had to produce their cassava and food, like we survived here during COVID because of food production. Now we need to up our game in production, but for people to produce, they need not be hungry, they need not be sick. They should be in good health status. And then once that has been achieved, the education status, they have told you about skilling and packages for those who don't make it past primary level. The numbers, as you look at them, they keep decreasing from primary to secondary to university. Those numbers drop. I told you about 10.7 million. The ones that go to primary school are in thousands. They come now down to 60,000, things like those. So where did all the other millions that started off at P1 go? That is why when the president went to Karamoja, he was shocked. Only 1% of the children in Karamoja make it past primary school level. He said, what is happening? And he said primary schooling should be made free for everyone. So he went back to the political statement. But what we actually need is to look at those indicators to this facet and grow them for the sake of growing the country. Let us not just see changes in infrastructure when we are not changing the ultimate human resource that needs to move this.
Thank you so much, Baguma. Your parting shot in 3 minutes.
One, I think we should be paying attention to the developments in Kenya. Because definitely we shall, with this challenge of fuel and other supplies, I don't want to be too optimistic about the outcome. So I think we better be ready than sorry. Fuel reserves and the other things that come. Also, we should be looking at the Tanzanian route now, the lake and also the route, the Tanzanian route. We may need those because things might happen there. So I think it's very critical that we keep an eye on that. And with the current economic situation we have, I think we need to. I think secondly, I think this question of human resource, what we need to be looking at is not the overall figure in percentages. I think what we need to be looking at is where the funds are actually going. In this, what do we call it? We call it what? The one which has taken Lions Street. Human capital development.
Yes, yes.
Because you see, if the budget, for example, for human capital development goes to recruit, I don't know, a certain category of people, or is put on certain sections of pay which benefits in a certain way, we need to be very, very careful where the money goes. We have seen this, that the budget is allocated, big budget, but then it goes to not very productive. So I think that's also very important. And for me, the other thing is the increasing interaction of people in this region, in the East African region. I think the region is growing officially by signing up, by countries signing up. I think, for example, for me, the making Kiswahili now compulsory in class and official, I think for me it would be a major area of investment. So if you are talking about human capital development, we should be investing in the teachers, we should be investing in learning materials.
Correct.
We should be in exchange visits. Because I can tell you, Apple, when people are interacting, many times whatever governments try to do, the businesses will force governments, the person interaction will force governments to improve their act. And we have nothing to do, we must have markets that are consolidated and that are expanding.
Yeah, even the two belligerents, President Kagame and Tshisekedi, this week agreed to.
Yeah, it's not that they love each other very much. They don't have to. But what can they do? And I think that's where we need to be headed. But also our people will force us to do that. Anyway, if we don't. Finally, Apollo, I want to go back. That you see, if you have 1 million children entering a system, entering a pipe called education, education institutions, 1 million. And at the end of the pipe, 300,000 get out, 30% get out. 70% disappear in this pipe called primary education. They are growing up. You can only keep them suppressed for a time. Whatever equipment, whatever technology, whatever commandos you have, you can only maintain them and manage them for a time. They will overwhelm you. I think it's critical that in our human development investment, we must invest in the out of school young people. We skill them and we give them hope and income. Thank you.
Thank you so much. A parting shot in just 1 minute.
Going back to Kiswahili, it's not new that the attempts to promote Kiswahili. Around 1996, 97, my mother was a teacher. There was modules that were developed, teaching modules for primary teachers colleges, developed by the National Curriculum Development Center to operationalize Kiswahili as a second official language. But at that time, they discovered that even within the training colleges, there were no Kiswahili teachers to teach the instructors. So those books were dumped and thrown away. Now, learning from our Rwanda friends, when they were moving from French to English, they deliberately, there was a policy importing English teachers from Uganda. And right now, they can show you the results. So
we should import teachers from Kenya and Tanzania?
No, we should try to invest, like he said. It could even mean importing or supporting schools.
An official from the Curriculum Development Center yesterday told me they train teachers. So you bring in an aspect of importing teachers.
I mean, an investment. It could even mean importing if you don't have capacity to train others, then they can go back and others pick on from there. So otherwise, if we only focus on political statements and then the books, it will also be a dead on arrival.
Thank you so much. Our time is up, but it will be very unfair not to give Charity one comment on the issue of Kiswahili.
Yeah, so Kiswahili is a very good language and very simple to learn. I lived in Tanzania for about 2 years, and by the time I left, I could speak to them. When I went, I could not say 1-2 words with them. I would say my English and I would keep speaking back to me in Kiswahili. You know, for them, even in their shops, you will have to interact with them in that language. You tell somebody in English, and actually they don't know English, but they know Kiswahili. I don't know whether it's deliberate, but I think in their teaching, everything, it's just... So I had to learn the days of the week quickly. I had to learn the money quickly. What is 100? What is 20?
So you're already there.
I learned that, but I forgot when I came.
Our viewers, our time is up, and I must thank you and appreciate you for being a very, very good audience. Thank you so much, panelist Richard Baguma. Thank you so much for your time, and it's a pleasure having you on the show. Charity, thank you so much.
Thank you too.
We'll always look forward to having you on this show again.
And we hope she comes back safely from Kenya.
Our viewers, now we wait to see how Cabinet will spend that first hour discussing in Kiswahili. I think that is being very serious. Wow. Very, very serious. Wow. To our viewers, watazamaji wetu, asante sana. Tukutane wiki ijayo. Kwaheri.
Kwaheri.